Lena Carter was the embodiment of what many would consider the perfect life. She lived in a beautiful suburban home with her husband, Richard, and their adorable daughter, Vicky. Lena and Richard had met in college, where his intelligence and ambition had captivated her. He was charismatic and driven, a rising star in the corporate world, while Lena had always been the supportive partner, focusing on raising their daughter and managing their home. Their marriage started as a passionate love affair, full of dreams and promises. They spent their early years traveling, experiencing the world together, and building a life that seemed destined for happiness. Richard's career took off, and with his success came a luxurious lifestyle. Their house was large and tastefully decorated, filled with the warmth of family photos, elegant furniture, and the laughter of their young daughter. Lena had everything she had ever wanted: a loving husband, a beautiful child, and the comfort of financial security. She hosted dinner parties, attended charity galas, and was a respected member of their community. Her best friend, Hannah, was a constant presence in her life, someone Lena trusted implicitly. They had met in college, and their bond had only grown stronger over the years. Hannah was more than just a friend. She was family, the sister Lena had never had. But beneath the surface, Lena felt a growing unease. Richard was often preoccupied with work, spending long hours at the office or traveling for business. He became increasingly distant, and their once intimate relationship began to feel more like a routine. Lena tried to dismiss her worries, telling herself that every marriage had its ups and downs. She focused on being a good mother to Vicky, pouring all her love and attention into their daughter. Yet the loneliness crept in, seeping into the cracks of her seemingly perfect life. Lena often found herself staring at the empty side of the bed, wondering where the man she had fallen in love with had gone. She longed for the closeness they had once shared, but whenever she brought it up, Richard would brush off her concerns, assuring her that everything was fine. Hannah was her confidant during these times of doubt. Lena shared her fears and insecurities, and Hannah always listened, offering comfort and advice. "It's just a phase," Hannah would say. "You and Richard have a strong bond. You'll get through this." Lena wanted to believe her, to hold on to the hope that their love could weather any storm. One evening, as Lena was cleaning up after dinner, she noticed Richard had left his phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed with a notification, and out of habit, she glanced at the screen. The message preview caught her eye. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Love, Hannah." Lena's heart stopped. The world seemed to tilt, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. She tried to rationalize it. Perhaps it was a mistake, a joke between friends. But the gnawing suspicion in her gut wouldn't let her ignore it. With trembling hands, she unlocked the phone and began scrolling through the messages. What she found confirmed her worst fears. Richard and Hannah had been having an affair for months. The messages were explicit, detailing secret meetings and passionate encounters. They spoke of love, of stolen moments that Lena had been completely oblivious to. The betrayal cut deep. Her husband, the man she had devoted her life to, was not only cheating on her, but with her best friend, the one person she trusted more than anyone. The realization was like a punch to the stomach, leaving Lena gasping for air. She felt the room spinning around her, the walls closing in. How could they do this to her? How could they betray her so completely? When Richard returned home later that night, Lena was waiting for him in the living room, her eyes red from crying. The confrontation was brutal. Richard didn't deny the affair, his guilt written all over his face. He tried to explain, to justify his actions, but Lena couldn't listen. All she could see was the man she had loved standing before her, and all she could feel was the overwhelming pain of his betrayal. Hannah's attempts to contact Lena were met with silence. The thought of facing her was unbearable. Lena felt a mix of rage and sorrow, a heartbreak so profound that it left her numb. The life she had known was over, and with it, her trust in the people she had once held dear. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, paperwork, and emotional turmoil. Lena filed for divorce, unable to imagine staying married to a man who had so deeply betrayed her. Richard, perhaps out of guilt or a desire to move on with his life, didn't contest the divorce. The process was swift, But the pain lingered. Vicky, too young to understand the full scope of what was happening, sensed the tension in the house. She clung to her mother, confused by the absence of her father and the sadness that seemed to hang in the air. Lena tried to stay strong for her daughter, but every moment was a struggle. The home that had once been filled with love and laughter was now just a shell, haunted by memories of what could have been. Lena knew she couldn't stay. The house, the city, everything reminded her of Richard and Hannah, of the life she had lost. She needed a fresh start, a place where she could heal and rebuild her life. Willow Creek, her childhood hometown, seemed like the perfect place. It was a small, quiet town where everyone knew each other, a place where she could find some semblance of peace. With a heavy heart, Lena packed up her belongings, sold the house, and left the city behind. The move was bittersweet. She was leaving behind the life she had built, but she knew it was necessary. Willow Creek represented a new beginning, a chance to find herself again. Willow Creek hadn't changed much since Lena's childhood. It was still the same small town with tree-lined streets, cozy cottages, and a close-knit community. As she drove through the familiar roads, memories of her youth flooded back. Days spent playing in the park, high school football games, and the annual town festivals that everyone looked forward to. She had bought a modest cottage on the outskirts of town, a place that had once belonged to her grandparents. The house was old but charming, with a wraparound porch and a garden that had long since grown wild. It needed some work, but Lena didn't mind. In fact, she welcomed the distraction. Fixing up the house gave her something to focus on, something to fill the void left by the end of her marriage. The townspeople welcomed Lena back with open arms, happy to see her after so many years. Old friends stopped by to say hello, and neighbors brought over casseroles and pies, offering their help and support. It was a far cry from the cold, impersonal life she had left behind in the city. Here in Willow Creek, Lena felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't felt in years. Vicky, too, seemed to thrive in their new environment. She quickly made friends with the other children in the neighborhood, and her laughter once again filled the house. Seeing her daughter happy brought Lena a measure of comfort. She knew the move had been the right decision. Lena found work at the local library, a job that suited her perfectly. She loved books, and the quiet, peaceful atmosphere of the library was exactly what she needed. It wasn't glamorous, but it was fulfilling in a way that her previous life had never been. Every day, she found herself healing a little more, rediscovering who she was outside of her marriage. The annual Willow Creek Fall Festival was just around the corner, and the entire town was buzzing with excitement. It was a tradition that Lena had loved as a child. There were games, food stalls, live music, and a parade down Main Street. Vicky was particularly excited, having heard stories about the festival from Lena, that on the day of the festival, the town square was alive with color and laughter. Lena and Vicky spent the afternoon wandering through the stalls, playing games and sampling treats. Vicky's joy was infectious, and for the first time in months, Lena felt truly happy that as they walked through the crowded square, Lena suddenly found herself face-to-face with someone she hadn't seen in years. Michael Everett, her best friend from high school, stood before her, a wide grin spreading across his face. Michael had been a constant in her life during her teenage years, the person she could always rely on. They had lost touch after graduation, each going their separate ways, but seeing him now brought back a flood of memories. "Lena Carter, as I live and breathe," Michael exclaimed, pulling her into a warm hug. "It's been too long," Lena laughed, surprised by how easy it was to fall back into old patterns. "It really has, Michael. What are you doing here?" "I never left," he said, his smile turning nostalgic. "After college, I came back to Willow Creek, started a small business." "What about you? I heard you were living in the city." "I was," Lena replied, her voice tinged with sadness. "But I'm back now. A lot has changed." Michael seemed to sense the weight behind her words, but he didn't press. Instead, he looked down at Vicky, who was watching them curiously. "And who is this little lady?" "This is my daughter, Vicky," Lena said, her voice softening as she introduced her daughter. "Vicky, this is Michael, an old friend of Mommy's." Vicky shyly hid behind Lena's leg, peeking out at Michael. He crouched down to her level, his smile kind. "Nice to meet you, Vicky." "Do you like ice cream?" Vicky's eyes lit up and she nodded enthusiastically. "Yes." "Well, you're in luck. The best ice cream in Willow Creek is just over there," Michael said, pointing to a nearby stall. "Why don't we go get some?" As they made their way to the ice cream stall, Lena couldn't help but feel a sense of comfort in Michael's presence. It was as if no time had passed at all, as if they were still those carefree teenagers with their whole lives ahead of them. For the first time in a long while, Lena felt a glimmer of hope, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, things could get better today as Vicky enjoyed her ice cream. Michael and Lena reminisced about their high school days, laughing at old stories and catching up on the years they had missed. It was easy, natural, and Lena found herself opening up to him in a way she hadn't with anyone else since the divorce. When the day came to an end and they said their goodbyes, Michael promised to visit Lena and Vicky soon. Lena watched him walk away, a smile playing on her lips. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face it, whatever it might bring. In the weeks following the fall festival, Lena and Michael's friendship rekindled, quickly becoming an integral part of her and Vicky's life in Willow Creek. Michael was true to his word, visiting them often, sometimes under the pretense of bringing a new book for Vicky or a freshly baked pie from his bakery. But Lena knew he came simply because he enjoyed their company, and she found herself looking forward to his visits more than she cared to admit that Michael's presence was a balm for Lena's wounded heart. He was patient, kind, and funny, qualities that Vicky adored. The little girl had taken to him almost instantly, and it wasn't long before she started calling him Uncle Mike, a term that delighted him and tugged at Lena's heartstrings. One Saturday afternoon, Michael invited Lena and Vicky to the Willow Creek Fair, an event that brought the whole town together with rides, games, and all manner of fun activities. Vicky was thrilled, and Lena, eager to create new, happy memories, agreed. The fair was a whirlwind of colors and sounds. Children laughing, music playing, and the smell of cotton candy and popcorn filling the air. Michael and Lena watched as Vicky raced from one game to the next, her laughter ringing out as she won a stuffed bear twice her size at the ring toss. As the day went on, Michael and Lena found themselves talking more deeply, reminiscing about their high school days, sharing stories about their lives since then, and discussing their hopes for the future. Lena found herself opening up to Michael in ways she hadn't with anyone since her divorce. His understanding and support made her feel safe, and for the first time in a long time, she felt the stirrings of hope and happiness. The day ended with a fireworks display, and as they watched the sky light up in brilliant colors, Lena felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in years. With Michael by her side and Vicky snuggled in her arms, she realized she was beginning to let go of the past, allowing herself to embrace the possibility of new beginnings. As Lena and Michael grew closer, their friendship began to shift into something deeper. They spent more and more time together, picnics in the park, quiet evenings on the porch, and family dinners that felt increasingly like the beginning of something more. Michael was wonderful with Vicky, and Lena couldn't help but notice how much her daughter had come to depend on him. But as their relationship deepened, so did Lena's fears. She had been through so much pain and betrayal, and the idea of opening her heart again terrified her. She was torn between the happiness she felt with Michael and the lingering fear of getting hurt again. The scars from her failed marriage were still fresh, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to trust someone else with her heart. Michael sensed her hesitation, but never pushed. He was always there, patient and understanding, giving her the space she needed while gently encouraging her to take small steps forward. He showed his love not through grand gestures, but through the little things, helping Vicky with her homework, fixing things around the cottage, and simply being there when Lena needed someone to talk to. One evening, as they sat on the porch after dinner, Lena found herself confiding in Michael about her fears. She told him about the betrayal she had experienced, how it had shattered her trust and left her afraid to love again. Michael listened quietly, his hand covering hers in a gesture of comfort. "Lena," he said softly, "I can't change what happened to you, and I can't promise that life won't throw us more challenges. But I can promise you this. I'm here for you, for as long as you'll have me. I love you, and I love Vicky, and I'm not going anywhere." Lena looked into his eyes and saw only sincerity and love. It was a moment of truth, and she realized that if she didn't take a chance on Michael, she might miss out on something truly special. She took a deep breath and squeezed his hand. "I'm scared, Michael, but I want to try. I want to try with you." Michael's smile was warm and reassuring. "We'll take it one day at a time, Lena. Together." As Lena and Michael navigated their new relationship, life in Willow Creek settled into a peaceful routine. The townspeople, always curious and supportive, couldn't help but notice the growing bond between them. Many whispered that they made the perfect couple, a sentiment that both embarrassed and amused Lena. One night, as the summer was drawing to a close, a violent storm hit Willow Creek. The wind howled and rain lashed against the windows of Lena's cottage, waking her and Vicky in the middle of the night. The power went out, plunging the house into darkness. Vicky, terrified, clung to Lena, who tried to stay calm for her daughter's sake. As the storm raged on, there was a loud knock on the door. Lena's heart raced. Who could be out in this weather? She opened the door to find Michael, soaked to the skin but smiling despite the storm. "Michael, what are you doing here?" Lena asked, surprised but relieved to see him. "I couldn't sleep knowing you two were out here alone in this storm," he said, stepping inside and shaking off the rain. "The cottage isn't built to handle a storm like this. You should come stay with me until it passes." Lena hesitated for a moment, but another loud crash of thunder made up her mind. "Okay, let me grab a few things for Vicky." They quickly packed a bag, and Michael helped them into his truck. The drive to his house was tense, the storm making the roads difficult to navigate, but Michael's calm presence reassured Lena. When they arrived at Michael's house, he led them to the guest room, making sure they were comfortable. Vicky, still scared, insisted on sleeping in Lena's bed, and Michael brought extra blankets to keep them warm. Lena was touched by his thoughtfulness. He made sure they were safe and secure before retiring to his own room. As the storm continued to rage outside, Lena found herself unable to sleep. She kept thinking about how Michael had rushed to their aid, how he had put their safety above his own. She realized then just how much she trusted him, how much she had come to rely on him. Despite her fears, her heart was opening to him in ways she hadn't thought possible. When morning came, the storm had passed, but the damage was done. Lena's cottage had suffered significant damage, and it was clear that they couldn't return home right away. Michael insisted they stay with him until the repairs were completed, and Lena, though hesitant at first, eventually agreed. Chapter 9, Love Grows Stronger. Living under the same roof brought new dynamics to Lena and Michael's relationship. They shared meals, chores, and quiet evenings together, each moment deepening their connection. Vicky thrived in the warm, loving environment, and it wasn't long before she started referring to Michael as Daddy, a name that filled Lena with a mixture of joy and trepidation. Michael was everything Lena had ever hoped for in a partner. He was gentle, patient, and endlessly supportive. He loved Vicky as if she were his own, and it was clear that he wanted to build a life with them. Lena found herself falling more in love with him every day, but with that love came fear. Fear of what might happen if things didn't work out, fear of losing the happiness she had found. But Michael never wavered. He was always there, steady and reliable, reassuring Lena that they were in this together. He understood her fears and never pressured her to move faster than she was comfortable with. Instead, he showed his love in the little things, making her coffee in the morning, leaving notes for her to find, and always making sure she knew how much he cared. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Michael turned to Lena, his expression serious. "Lena, I know you've been through a lot, and I know it's hard for you to trust again. But I want you to know that I'm in this for the long haul. I love you, and I want to build a life with you and Vicky, a real life, where we're a family." Lena looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. She knew she loved him, knew that he was the man she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. But the fear still lingered, the memories of her past making her hesitate. "I love you too, Michael," she said softly, "but I'm scared. What if I mess this up? What if we can't make it work?" Michael took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "We will make it work, Lena, because we both want it to. We'll take it one day at a time. and we'll face whatever comes our way together. You don't have to be afraid, not with me." In that moment, Lena felt something shift inside her. The wall she had built around her heart began to crumble, and she realized that she could trust Michael. He had been there for her, unwavering in his support and love, and she knew he was different from anyone she had ever known. With a deep breath, Lena leaned in and kissed Michael, a kiss that spoke of all the love and trust she was ready to give. It was a leap of faith, but one she was finally ready to take. As autumn settled over Willow Creek, Lena and Michael's relationship blossomed. They were inseparable, and the love they shared only grew stronger with each passing day. Vicky adored Michael, and the three of them formed a new, happy family, a family that Lena had once thought was impossible to have again. The repairs on Lena's cottage were completed, but by then, it had become clear that she and Vicky would not be moving back. Michael's house had become their home, a place filled with love and laughter. They spent their days working together on projects, exploring the town, and creating new memories. The townspeople, who had watched their relationship develop, were thrilled for them. They had seen the transformation in Lena, from a woman broken by betrayal to someone who had found love and happiness again. As winter approached, Michael took Lena and Vicky to a quiet spot in the woods where the snow blanketed the ground in a pristine white. It was there, in the peaceful stillness of the forest, that Michael got down on one knee and proposed. He told Lena how much he loved her, how much he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her and Vicky. He promised to protect them, to cherish them, and to build a life filled with love, trust, and happiness. With tears in her eyes and love in her heart, Lena said yes. It was a moment of pure joy, the culmination of everything they had been through together. As they embraced, Vicky clapped her hands in delight, already dreaming of the future they would share. Lena knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but she was no longer afraid. With Michael by her side, she felt strong, loved, and ready to face whatever challenges might come their way. They had found each other again after all these years, and they were determined to make the most of the second chance they had been given in the spring. They married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by their closest friends and family. The day was filled with laughter, tears, and promises of a bright future. Vicky served as the flower girl, her smile as bright as the sun. They exchanged vows. Lena looked into Michael's eyes and knew that she had finally found her forever. The past was behind them, and the future was theirs to create together. A future filled with love, trust, and the promise of a lifetime of happiness. And so, Lena, Michael, and Vicky began their new life as a family. They had overcome heartbreak, fear, and uncertainty to find love again. Together, they built a home filled with joy, laughter, and the knowledge that they had found something truly special in each other. Their story was one of second chances, of healing and hope, and of the kind of love that could withstand anything. And as they looked forward to the future, they knew that, no matter what, they would face it together, forever. Hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. Your participation is essential so that we can continue to bring you more incredible stories. Share it with your friends to help our channel grow. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.